Hello, Trouties. Pardon the slight delay this week. There were some technical difficulties. How are you all doing? Today, we are going to talk about something that I'm really excited about because it all came from a question that was asked in last week's live video, and that is, how do you start the process of the cleaning out, the purge, the decluttering? Like, how do you actually start diving in and doing this? I talk all the time about cleaning out closets and things related kind of to style, but if you know me, you know that I love to organize, and it is kind of one of my superpowers, so I might as well share this knowledge with you. So today we're going to run through kind of the basis of it, but I'm going to talk a little bit of kind of like the mental start, like how you get yourself into the process of living a little bit, maybe more of a decluttered life, making it a regular occurrence, because that's the big secret to it. So for those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Sierra Bailey. I am the designer, the maker, the everythinger here at Manic, Trout, which is an online-based jewelry company. I live in Austin, Texas, and I have been running Manic Trout for 15 years now. There's a lot of sirens going on outside. I wanted to, like I said, start talking a little bit more about organizing in these videos a little bit, because you guys seem to really enjoy that when I talk about goal setting and organizing and things like that. And I know many of you Trouties are very work-oriented and focused on your life, and many of you seem to enjoy these topics. So let's dive in. Now, all right. Marie Kondo became very famous last year or the year before that with the Japanese art of decluttering, and that happened for a reason, because a lot of us feel like we just have so much stuff, especially here in the United States. There's such a trend to own a lot of things and to fit a lot of things into houses. You know, rent a storage space for your excess stuff, buy bigger houses to fit everything. You know, it's all about kind of the how can I take control of all of this stuff that I've accumulated. For years, I really enjoyed moving a lot because it forces you to clean out, but when you don't move all the time, you are often just stuck with lots of things that are in your home that you don't know what to do with. I always laugh when I tell people the secret to organizing is that you are constantly organizing, really. Like every time something new comes into the house, I end up reorganizing where that's going to go. And this alone, when you get into that habit of it, leads to lesser amounts of clutter. Don't get me wrong. I have a lot of stuff. I like stuff. I am an artist. I really enjoy pretty things. And most things when I pick them up are pretty and I want to keep them. So it's more about the, either keep it stored nicely so it's not bursting all over the house, or, you know, in an organized manner if it's out in front of things. So the person who asked this question is also somebody who was a roommate of mine at one point in college, and she knows that I naturally am a very organized person. My favorite thing to do really is when I'm hanging out with girlfriends, reorganize their closets. I still will do that more with my sisters these days. Not everybody wants me in their closet, but hey, if I'm at your house, I will absolutely, you know, help you out if you need it. The other thing that I really enjoyed, I just read Gretchen Rubin, I have to look and see what the book was, the Happiness Project. If you have not read it, it was a great book, but she talked about that. She went through kind of a decluttering phase in one of her months of goals, and she found herself going to people's houses and offering to reorganize and clean out their coat closets, and it was not always received well. Some people were like, are you judging me and saying that I need it? Some people loved it, and she would dive right in, but she started to find that once you start the process of decluttering, it's addictive. You like it. You like the feeling of knowing that everything that you have serves a purpose. You love it. There's nothing sitting there that you're like, why do I still have that? A lot of the things that make us hold on to things are because either they are high in value on a monetary or a sentimental scale, and you don't want to get rid of them, maybe out of guilt. I'm a big fan of, you can hold on to some things, but you have to pack them away if it's not something that you're using all the time. I actually, being a jewelry designer, so here's like an interesting way of how I will talk about that. Being a jewelry designer, I have for many, many years worn only my own jewelry. I don't have my hand, so I do wear rings that are from my husband, but I have jewelry. Like when I was a teenager, I, with my grandmother, would collect vintage sterling silver, like cuff bracelets. And I went through this phase of them. And I've gone through a few phases of jewelry. And I have some jewelry that I love, be it mostly sentimental. But some of it is valuable that like my grandmother has given me and things like that. And I don't want to get rid of them. I just am not currently wearing them. So I do keep it all, and it's in my closet. I just have it in a very nice box that's it's all kind of packed in there because I don't wear it regularly, so it's not out like other jewelry. But there's nothing wrong with keeping things that are sentimental. You just don't need to have them in your prime real estate section, of your organizing. So if you are feeling that you are kind of overwhelmed by stuff, there's no better thing to do than just clean something out. I was actually FaceTiming with my sister a few weeks ago while she was cleaning out. She had a baby about 6 weeks ago, and she was cleaning out her, like the vanity in the bathroom and underneath. And she's like, I just feel like there's so much stuff I don't use. There's wasted space. We all go through that. We all have that feeling. So it's not something you really like stay on top of. I am one of like a crazy organized person, and I absolutely, like last night, I found myself very quickly cleaning out. I have a little cupboard in my bathroom where I keep like lotions and stuff like that. And I did a quick clean out. I kind of saw something in there that I was like, I think that bottle is empty. And then I was like, I think that is expired sunscreen, which actually it was not, but I did a quick clean out and it just updated the space and made it so that I felt a little bit, more in tune with that area and that I didn't have just like garbage sitting in there. So I'm a big fan of choosing one area. I want to say, I think the biggest thing to decluttering and to getting started is to not make a big deal about it. It's kind of like when you establish a daily habit, and I've talked about this in the videos. You don't want to be like, oh, I have to clean out my whole house or my whole closet or something. No, you're just going to clean out this shelf. Maybe you'll keep going. You'll clean out a few more things, but don't make it into like, I need to clean out and reorganize my kitchen. Make it like, oh, I'm going to clean out this drawer today. And that's fine. If you do like a drawer every weekend, your whole kitchen will be done soon. So I like to always kind of I was talking to a girlfriend of mine the other day, and we were talking about when we wait for our coffee to be made in the morning, we both do French presses, which takes a few minutes, and you have to kind of be actively involved in the process. And we were talking about when we're waiting for it, it's a great time. Like she wipes down all the counters in the kitchen. And I was like, that's great. I tend to throw some laundry in because my laundry room is off the kitchen. Like we talk about how while we're kind of like doing that one little thing, we stay on top of like a task that's not that exciting. And I found myself now in the mornings, I'm kind of like wiping down my cupboards, like the bottom ledge gets a little dusty and the trim and stuff. I do that while I'm waiting for my coffee now. It takes seconds and it's just something that I don't have to worry about. Same thing as like junk drawers, coat closets. If you have like half an hour, you can usually clean out a coat closet, no problem. So decide the one place, and then my big advice that I give when you are cleaning something out is decide where the stuff is going to go. You will feel so much better knowing that, oh, I know a family that just lost their house in a fire and they have nothing and I can give them any clothing or kitchen stuff. Like knowing that you have that in mind. If you are a woman who, I say this all the time, is cleaning out her closet and has like corporate wear, like donate to Dress for Success. They are always looking for donations. We had a friend of ours that got divorced a few years ago, and he didn't have any kitchen stuff. So it was a great time for me to clean out my kitchen and give him a lot of stuff. If you're like I am and are kind of like addicted to those subscription boxes, like the Birchbox and like the Sephora box, you end up with a lot of samples of things, and I feel guilty throwing them out. I have been suggested by people to give the samples to a women's shelter because they often are trying to get back on their feet and they need makeup to go to work and things like that, or just to feel nice, So I started collecting for that, and then I found out I had a girlfriend of mine who's like makeup obsessed, and she's in college, and I collected and give it to her, and she's so excited, and then she distributes to friends and stuff like that. So when I'm cleaning out a little area to be like, oh, I know somebody will love to have this, it makes it easier, especially if it's something that is new that, let's say, didn't work out the way you thought it would, and you're like, I'm just gonna throw this out or donate it to Goodwill, which actually has nothing to do with like anything good. I mean, they make money, but yeah. So think about like beyond the normal things, like I'm going to put this trash bag of clothes in my car and drive around for 4 months. Think about like somebody that could use it, and it will make you kind of want to get rid of stuff a little bit more. Now, the other thing is like to have maybe a game plan sort of in mind. I am not a fan of going and buying like organizing containers before cleaning out because I don't know until afterwards. But I will often, like if I'm getting ready, I did like a big pantry overhaul. It took me like an hour. I'm not kidding. And I put this off for like 3 months. Like it was really pathetic because it could have just been something that I had instantly checked off the list. So I actually looked at like pantries on Pinterest and kind of was like, what direction do I want to go? I then cleaned it out. And after I did the cleaning out, that's when I went and bought the organizing things, but we'll get to that later. So either have a friend over who can maybe help you or have like some direction you want to go. Like there are lots of closets on Pinterest. If you're going to be cleaning out a closet, look at what you like so that you know as you're cleaning out, like, oh, I don't want my hangers touching and I want it spread out. You'll have to probably get rid of a lot of clothes to make that happen. So, have that in mind of what you're going for as your finished thing. Now, the next is to make sure that when you're doing this, you have trash bags on hand and boxes for the stuff you're going to donate and give away, because it's hard to, if I start something, I want to finish it that day. I don't like to leave messes out. So it's great if you just have the things like this box is for this box is for this. And as you clean out, you can put things in there. I keep a fabric basket in my clothing closet. So if I have it in a guest closet, and if I decide I don't like something anymore, I kind of put it in there. And then every few months I will donate that basket to a thing. But I will kind of, as I, look through the closet, I'm like, why do I have this? So you can also, after you clean out, put something in there that collects, this is more for clothing closets, not for your pantry. But you're going to take everything out. All right, so we're at the obvious stuff still. We're at obviously this is how you do things. Let's use the pantry as an example. You're gonna take all of the food, you're gonna take all of the random stuff you have in that pantry, you're gonna take everything out of there, and then you're gonna clean out the space and everything's gonna be out. So when everything is out, it makes it easier for you to look at it. So in the pantry, just like last night when I cleaned out my toiletry cupboard, the first thing I did was I looked for garbage. I looked for anything that, I have a message coming from Trouty, Claire here, that her granddaughter's helping her declutter. See, that's awesome. And I love that you have one consistent person that kind of knows you and knows your stuff, that they can come over and help you. Because like I said, where you get a Pinterest board or a friend, if you have somebody, if your sister is a total awesome organizer, and you get her to help you, she'll make some of these decisions for you, because this is where it gets hard. So the garbage is easy. I last night looked for sunscreen expires. So I looked for the expiration on that. I took out things that I'm pretty good. I will flip the bottle over. I will if it's a pump, I take the pump out. I use the last of the lotion, but there were still bottles in there that were a little questionable of if I'd be able to get enough lotion out to put on me. So I threw those out. I got rid of all the garbage first. Then what was left over was, there were a few things that I bought that, there was a hair product that I bought that I had such high hopes for. And it basically, the way I do my hair is I put the stuff in and then I kind of scrunch it. And when I scrunched it, it flaked. So it made it look like I was covered in dandruff. It was not a good look. So that was unfortunate. And I still had this product in there. Why? Because it wasn't cheap and I kind of felt wasteful, but at the same time, nobody needs that product. So I threw that product out. So that wasn't necessarily garbage, but it was next level. If it were clothing, you'd kind of be looking for things that are not necessarily stained, but the things that you never wear or that look horrible on you. If it's in your kitchen, same goes for appliances. Those appliances that you had high hopes for, or those little gadgets and you never use. These are things that are not necessarily ruined. They're not garbage, but they're obvious that you're not going to use them. I know I hated that hair product. That can go. There's a skirt in your closet that when you put it on, you're ugh, but you won't get rid of it. Maybe it cost a lot of money or you love the pattern, but it just won't look good. So we're going to kind of get to that pile in a little bit. But the next is that you're going to be left with everything that makes you happy, you wear, you cook with, you use on a regular basis. I think a lot of us fall into the useful trap, these 15 different types of batteries may come in handy. I have a bag of cords that I remember every few years to go through. And every few years I'll go through them and I'll be like, well, this technology no longer exists. Sometimes you have to remember to clean those things out or they just accumulate so much. So there's multi-levels when you're cleaning out. I have been working hard. We talked about this in a video about using things that I love and not letting them get to the point where they're really out of style or I don't fit into them anymore. There are a few dresses that I'm man, I wish I had worn those out. I wear clothing out because I don't shop that often. I buy things that I love and I wear them constantly. So I actually will wear clothes till they start to misshapen and don't look attractive anymore. And sometimes I don't do that with something because I'll have put some weird value on it or something. And then next thing you know, I have changed size or it's really gone out of style or something. And I'm I wish I had worn that. So, use the food, use the clothes. You want to clean out these areas and declutter so you're using everything you have. I will say one of my favorite decluttering stories ever was when I moved from I don't know if I talked about this in the video last week. I wrote this somewhere. I don't remember where. But when I moved from New York to Texas, I moved in a pod because I had to I had to store it when I got here and find a place to live. And it really made me clean things out because it was like, what do I want that is worth, pots are not that cheap, but that you can store them. It's not the cheapest way to move, but it's really useful in some situations. It wasn't like I had a big moving truck to fill. So I had to be I had to pare down. And for years, like every book I read, I saved. And when I got that pod, I had to get rid of about 5,000 books, like all of like the fiction that I read and would never reread, the books that I had, but never read and never will read. I saved business, but I still have a lot of books, don't feel sad, but I saved business books, I saved art books, the books that I like to collect kind of. I buy books like used, so they're inexpensive and I can do this, but I like to have a good selection to choose from when I'm ready to read my next book. So those all I saved, but I got rid of many, and I sold them on Craigslist. I had booksellers that were coming and going through them, and then they kind of got picked through. So like the booksellers didn't want any of the ones that were left. I had friends like my mom, my sisters, anybody take anything they wanted. And then I was still left with a massive amount of books. So sometimes when you're cleaning out, you're like, how am I going to get rid of this? Like I couldn't even begin to think about throwing out this many books. I talked to like used bookstores and said, can I just bring them to you and drop them off? And they were like, do not do that. I talked to libraries and asked the same thing. They're like, you have too many, you can't do that. I had kept ads on Craigslist, which were free, and I was saying that I just had a massive amount of books to donate, and there was actually somebody that contacted me. I was about an hour outside of New York City, and somebody contacted me that was working on an indie film and said, we are doing a film that takes place in a bookstore, and we need books. Can I drive up and just fill my car? And I said, please do. We got almost all of them in there. It was amazing. So sometimes even I was like, I will sell my books. Well, that didn't work. And then I realized there was nothing to do with them. If I hadn't been moving, I would have just kept the books. So sometimes I agree there are there are hurdles in how you have to get rid of things. And sometimes it does take work. It took a lot. It took me like months to get rid of all of these books. But it was like a weight was literally lifted from me because I had been moving with these books for so many years. And I was so tired of the clutter from books that I did not use. They were just like the kind of thing like you read a good, like a Tom Robbins book and you hold on to it because you hold on to all of your books, but you don't need to. I have plenty to decorate with and to look nice and that I, reference, but sometimes you just have to declutter. So that's when the friend comes into, because the friend can be like, you have 9 skirts that are all the same exact color. Do you actually wear them all? You have 7 types of blenders and you don't cook. Do you actually need all of these? It's great. Nowadays, there are many ways you can sell things. So it's great to also to put a goal on there, like maybe you're saving up for something. And if you sell a bunch of stuff, know that, this is a side hustle thing, but you do get at least 50, if not 75%, you lose right off the retail price. So know that when trying to resell things. But it's still, if you have a closet full of designer clothes that you bought years ago and never wear any of it, you could get some money to go buy some more. And there you go. I also, when you're putting everything back, like I said, I'm a big fan of kind of getting everything together in one day or one session or whatever. But I do like to sometimes take this opportunity to maybe reassess how I'm storing things and how to actually put things back. When I did my own pantry over recently, that was a big part of it. But I didn't know before I started what I would need. And that's why I said in the beginning, when you're looking at stuff, you're overwhelmed enough with deciding what to get rid of and all of that. So when you are ready to put everything back, that's when you're okay, this is how much stuff I have. This is how many, storage containers I'll need. This is the thing I have to work with. Maybe you want to get built-ins, put in your closet, or buy an armoire and move things out. All of that can happen after the clean out. Because mentally, you got to first know what's going to go back in. So a huge, awesome tip that I heard a few years ago about this stage was that when you go to buy stuff, if you're going to go to hold everything and buy baskets, buy extra. Buy all of them because you can return them. Make sure wherever you buy it has a return policy, and then you don't want to have to stop in the middle of putting things in baskets on shelves because who knows if you'll get back to it. You want to be able to just finish the job. Buy more than you think you'll need and then return the extra because it's just, you usually need more than you think you do with baskets, and it's just easier, especially if you're at like, I love going to Home Goods and finding things, and if you go back tomorrow, they probably won't have any more. So I will go like to Home Goods and buy all the baskets that match and use what I need, and then just return the rest the next day, or soon after. And that also kind of helps the process because you can then have things, that are matching more. I, for the most part though, am not a big fan of going and buying things that you're putting things in to hide them. I'd rather things be more organized and not just fill my space with like more things. And a lot of people, like if they get baskets for like shelves, will just clutter the baskets. I guess that's helpful rather than seeing the clutter, but it still is not always the best way to do things. So, think about that a little bit. But like corralling things, like you see behind me, I have markers and pencils in these containers. And to me, I like it because I can easily access them. So like when I use these specific markers to draw my designs after I design jewelry in a notebook so that I can refer to them when I'm making them over and over again of like, what size gemstone and how many, like, whatever I'm using. So I just bring these over to my desk and then they go back. So they're like decorative. It's not just like I threw them in a basket that you can't see it, so there are different ways that you can do that. Now, I also read in the Happiness Project something that was great, and that was a recommendation to keep an empty shelf somewhere in your house, that it is the greatest luxury. And I had to laugh about that because I kind of do that. Like I have an empty shelf in here and it's nice to have room to grow. But when you are reorganizing something and when you're decluttering, keep that in mind. As I said in the beginning, whenever I buy something new, I always have to, when I bring it home, I usually have to quickly like reorganize an area to fit in the new thing. Be it a candle that I have as a backup in storage. I do have a candle storage, I'll admit that. Or, like a new pair of shoes or something like that. So sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of extra room to kind of make room for the future things. There's also, that's a lot of why people do like one in, one out. But like in my pantry, for example, I enjoy having a backup of a lot of the things that I use a lot, like a hot sauce or a backup coffee and, stuff like that. So I actually have a spot where the backup stuff goes. So it fluctuates of what's on that shelf. But I like to make it so there's room for fluctuation. Even a junk drawer, sometimes I leave like a special little empty compartment, because you never know what you're going to need there. It kind of helps you in the long run. But the biggest thing that also measure for boxes, if you're going to be getting things for like your pantry or your cabinet, measure first because it's really hard. Oh, my camera's doing weird things. It's really hard when you are in like a Home Goods. Let me see if I can do this. Will it get better? There you go. It's really hard when you're in a Home Goods and you're trying to figure out the size of the box. They look much like smaller or larger there and you get them home and you're like, ooh. So measuring is also good. But really the biggest thing that I can stress, and this was to answer the question, how to start the purge, is to not make a big deal about it. Like, don't make it seem like you have to spend hours and days and it's going to be exhausting and doing this. Just pick a drawer and clean it out and you'll be amazed at what that gets started and how you can do that. And hey, then you have room for new things too, which I always enjoy because sometimes you're like, well, I can't buy any new dresses because there's no room in my closet. If you clean that closet out, you can buy more dresses or jewelry. But as I said, I have a natural knack for the organizing and I love to share helpful things with you Trouties. So I hope that my organizing skills bring you some joy in your life and help you out because my mission in life is to make you all feel like you are pulled together and prepared for anything. So Trouties, comment below, say hi, tell me if you have organizing questions or, about jewelry, because I know that well too. And I can't wait to see you next Friday at 1 p.m. Central because I am here every week. In case you missed it at the beginning, my name is Sierra Bailey. I am the designer, the maker, the everything at Manic Trout, and, an organizing know-it-all. So I love to come to you Fridays at 1 p.m. Central and share the tips and tricks that I can with you. If you want to find Manic Trout jewelry, you can find it all on manictrout.com. I am very active on Facebook where you're maybe watching this video. If not, it might be on YouTube or the website. But come on over to Facebook if you're not already friends. Look for my face and make sure that we connect. I also am on Instagram, Polivore, Pinterest, Twitter, all the places at Manic Trout. And I cannot wait to hear from you. So please reach out, say hello. introduce yourself. I love to meet new Trouties. I will see you next Friday, and thank you so much for watching.